Part 88. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 880. Latest website. After everyone heard this idea, they were extremely shocked. As expected of Mr. Liu, this method prevented these students from easily disconnecting. As long as they found some inspiring lecturers, they would be able to join the big family of GFN. It is not just around the corner. The development of all major companies is considered stable, and the sales of TV sets are rising rapidly. Except for Changhong, other brands have been left behind by Wipta. The problem of VCD piracy is becoming increasingly serious. Fortunately, the Golden Leopard brand already has some weight in people's hearts, but if it sinks in the market, it will be cannibalized by others. The pager market has surged in recent months. Du Guoying has made different products for different groups of people, and also made gift packages. The advertising has begun to show his flavor. Du Guoying does not need Lu Feng's guidance in marketing. He is a person who is very good at discovering market pain points. The biggest change is the Talent Reserve Center. As it is divided into 4 colleges and it can help them obtain American green cards, more and more people are joining. In a short period of time, hundreds of college students have joined. Lu Feng wonders what impact the joining of so many people who yearn for the United States will have on the future of the company, but there is indeed no shortage of high-end talents in the short term. This meeting lasted for 7 hours, and no lunch was eaten. After the entire company's situation was reported, Lu Feng took a deep breath and said, "The overall situation is good, keep it up." As the company gets bigger and bigger, there are more and more people, supervision must keep up, and direct channels to the president's office must be set up at all levels. And in the future, the management authority of the audit team will be increased. The leader of the audit team will appear as the vice president of the group. He can supervise at any time if he receives a report or feels something is wrong. Lu Feng said to the crowd, "This matter, we will discuss it at a follow-up meeting. That's it for now, everyone eats first." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he stood up. Feeling that his body was stiff, he walked towards the outside. Others stood up and moved around with grins on their faces. GFN Electronics can challenge large enterprises in the industry in terms of a single product. If we look at it as a whole, it has already become a transcendent behemoth. As the factory in Tianjin is gradually completed, when it is officially put into use, GFN Electronics has completed a rapid overtake. For a week, Lu Feng was either in meetings or conducting research at the branch below, trying to figure out the overall situation of the group, solving many difficult problems, and firing dozens of management personnel. The outside world's interpretation of these 7 days is that Lu Feng has carried out internal rectification work after receiving financing from Europe, and also made it visible to new shareholders. It has acquired and integrated some of the following small branches, and its own raw material supply companies will more standardized. GFN Electronics will not only export finished products, but also provide services throughout the industry chain. As long as you register a brand and then bring money to GFN, you will have a complete system. Lu Feng's move was to harvest those hot-headed people who wanted to start a business after borrowing some money. Especially since 1994, the entrepreneurial wave started again. After a week of continuous work, Lu Feng was a little tired, but fortunately, everything that should be busy was already busy. Ruxin Laboratory was progressing very quickly. With such a high salary, the engineers were crazy with joy and rushed to go. The salary of the opposite engineer is a company secret. This matter must not be known to the engineers of the R/U0026D company, otherwise it will be easy to be poached by the opposite party. Everything that needed to be rectified was almost done. Lu Feng also had a rare chance to breathe. He took a nap in the morning and woke up to inquire about the progress of Li Lin and her party's signing. It was considered that all the procedures for the contract could be completed this month. Not worried. "What are you doing, Lu Feng suddenly remembered that he had bought a bunch of dolls and hadn't sent them to Duo yet, so he hurriedly called, but no one answered. Going to work with her mother. Lu Feng muttered and called Hua Shaman Factory again. The person who answered the phone was a little girl. Hello, Huasha Daily Chemical, what can I do for you? I'm looking for your chairman, Lu Feng said. If you have any questions, just say it. Don't call to harass me. Our chairman is very busy, you know. Are you placing an order? The voice on the other end of the phone said casually. I'll just look for Zhang Xiaoyan. Just say I'm Lu Feng. You can't do any peak, let alone Lu Feng, you can't even do Mount Everest. What the hell? Lu Feng was also angry with her and asked, why, so many people have been harassing your chairman recently? Yes, aren't you asking questions knowingly? Aren't you one of them? Let me tell you, the call will definitely not be transferred to you. Just give up and hang up. The person on the other end hung up the phone immediately after speaking. Lu Feng sat there and began to mutter, could it be that she wanted to find another one recently? It's impossible. Is there any man in this world who is more perfect than me? Lu Feng stood up and stood in front of the mirror quite narcissistically, looking left and right, and muttered, you are rich and good looking, it is totally unreasonable. Lu Feng took a car key from the vehicle management office and drove straight to Huasha. Nowadays, Huasha has developed very well and has been renamed Huasha Daily Chemicals. It mainly produces a series of daily necessities such as laundry, detergent, soap, shampoo, etc., but it also sells some low-end cosmetics wholesale. Both factories are fully staffed, with monthly profits ranging from 300,000 to 500,000 yuan. It can be said that Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia are now big bosses. A space was made available for parking at the entrance of the factory. Lu Feng parked the car. Before he could reach the gate, he saw a man with oily hair and a powdery face standing at the gate. He was holding flowers in his hand and shouted to the guard, why don't you let me in? I'm really your chairman's boyfriend. Which chairman? The uncle looked at him with a joking look on his face and said, just like you, I have driven away several people in the past 2 days. That's the one, surnamed Zhang. What's your full name? We all call her dear, but I forgot my full name. The man himself felt embarrassed. Lu Feng stepped forward, looked at the man, and said in a deep voice, get out of here as soon as possible, you know. Who are you? Come here and tell me to get out. The man raised his voice and glared at Lu Feng. Who am I? Go back and ask your mother. Lu Feng's face was gloomy, and he took a step forward and said, if you don't leave, I will make it impossible for you to leave for the rest of your life. The man saw that Lu Feng looked like he was not to be trifled with. It was his first time to come to this factory. He was afraid of being beaten, so he stepped back a few steps. You are so cruel, kid. I will remember you. Don't get into my hands inside. How can I get into your hands? What a joke, Lu Feng snorted coldly and strode inside. The uncle watched the man run away and sneered, you still have the courage to chase the chairman. Look at your virtue. He was scared away in just 2 seconds. After speaking, the uncle turned around and glanced at Lu Feng, suddenly reacted and shouted, stop, who are you? Lu Feng was grabbed by the shoulder by the security man and asked, who let you in? I'm looking for your chairman, Lu Feng said helplessly. Get out. Get out. If you do this with me, good guy, I almost let you sneak in. The uncle grabbed Lu Feng's shoulders and shouted, don't try to fool me, don't look at my age, I have practiced, even 3 or 5 people can't get close to him. Lu Feng. Lu Feng was pulled out and pulled out. Zhang Fengxia and several management people had just come out of the factory. They stood at the door of the factory and saw Lu Feng from a distance. Wait a minute, Zhang Fengxia walked towards the side, and Lu Feng had already been kicked out. Fengxia. Fengxia, Lu Feng saw her coming and shouted hurriedly, "Let me in, is Duo here? I bought her a doll." "Why did Mr. Lu have time to come to our place? Aren't you in the United States?" Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng and asked. "I'm just going to raise funds." "I'm back, aren't I?" "Are Duo here?" Lu Feng asked. "Duo? School has started, it started yesterday." Zhang Fengxia clasped her hands on her chest and said, "Are you thinking about your children now?" "That's right. Now you have opened your eyes. Which country has you not seen beautiful women in before? Let's have some fun. I miss you too. Where is Xiao Yan?" There was a man at the door just now holding flowers and saying he wanted to see Xiao Yan. Lu Feng asked, "What's going on?" "It's nothing, I just have some suitors." "I have a lot of suitors now, and you are not the only man in the world." Zhang Fengxia seemed to deliberately anger him and said, "Let him in." Zhang Fengxia took Lu Feng for a brief tour of the factory. Now it has become bigger and stronger, and they have participated in more activities. The two of them participated in a trade fair some time ago. Because they were beautifully dressed, they became the focus of the audience. They were the latest suitors. It came from that trade show. The office has also changed from the original simple conditions to the current luxurious decoration. Zhang Fengxia knocked on the door, pushed the door open, and said, "Guess who is here?" Zhang Xiaoyan, who had short shoulder-length hair, raised her head and glanced, frowning a little and said, "Didn't you say we won't let him in?" "No, it's this." Zhang Fengxia pulled Lu Feng in. The moment Zhang Xiaoyan saw Lu Feng, her eyes burst out with shining light, and her eyes subconsciously turned into crescent moons, but in response, all of this was hidden. "Hey! The big international boss is back. Why are you here?" Zhang Xiaoyan stood up as if entertaining an old friend and said, "Sit down, my office is a bit shabby. Let Xiao Zhao bring a thermos. I brought some dried fruits, 2 packs of cigarettes, and poured some tea." Zhang Xiaoyan was now a little thinner, but more energetic. She looked taller with high heels on her feet. She also knew how to put on makeup. She looked like a girl from Hong Kong and Taiwan. Like a star. "Is someone chasing you?" Lu Feng raised his head and looked at Zhang Xiaoyan. "Just a few boring people." Zhang Xiaoyan sat down and said, "They don't come here much anymore. They chase everyone, and they even chase Fengxia." "What do these people do?" "Rogues. Hooligans." Lu Feng frowned. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 881. Latest website. "We're just friends attending a trade fair." Zhang Xiaoyan saw that he didn't look right and said, "Maybe it was just a joke." Zhang Fengxia saw that he was a little annoyed, and sat on a chair nearby and said, "What a joke, Mr. Wang said he would marry you and give you a run for his money." "Mr. Wang? What Mr. Wang?" Lu Feng asked Zhang Fengxia. Zhang Fengxia seemed to deliberately stir up trouble and said, "Mr. Wang is a rich man. Not only does he want to use money to throw money at Sister Xiao Yan, but he also wants to use money to throw money at me. They said that if we are willing, he can use this factory bot." "It's all a joke." Zhang Xiaoyan picked up the teacup and said, "Don't take it seriously. Besides, that has nothing to do with you." Zhang Xiaoyan looked at Lu Feng and seemed to have mustered up a lot of courage and said, "We are both divorced, and we no longer have any obligation to ask about each other's affairs. I am fine now, and we are just friends now. If you come, I definitely welcome it." When Lu Feng heard this, he felt unspeakably uncomfortable, but what she said was a fact, and he had to accept it even if he didn't accept it. "Then what do you want to look for?" Lu Feng took a sip of tea and said, "The factory is very busy now, and you are also very busy. If you are looking for it, you have to keep your eyes open." Zhang Xiaoyan smiled and did not answer, but asked, "You are having a good time abroad?" "It's not bad. It's a near miss now. The company is getting bigger and bigger. It's not the small canning workshop it was at the beginning. There are many things in various aspects. Lu Feng glanced at Zhang Fengxia and said, now we are going to develop internationally. How long have I been away? This development speed is really unmatched. When will our small business catch up with you? Zhang Fengxia sighed. I once thought that 80% of the people in that company it's my fault, but it doesn't seem to be the case now. If you want to go back, you can do it at any time, Lu Feng said to her. Zhang Fengxia didn't say anything, and Zhang Xiaoyan seemed to have nothing to say as she sat there. The office felt quite awkward for a while. Normally, Lu Feng should have known better at this time and stood up to say goodbye. The silence lasted for 2 long minutes. Lu Feng glanced at the time. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon and said, I'm going to treat you. How about going out for afternoon tea? Okay, the meetings that should be held are all over, and it's time to take a short vacation for yourself, Zhang Fengxia said happily. There are other things. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at Lu Feng and said, you should be busy with your business. I know you are busy. If you want to see Duo, I will wait until you are not busy in the evening and have a meal together. Didn't you say we're done? Let's go out for a coffee or something. Lu Feng stood up and said, by the way, I'll call Mr. Wang too. What are you doing? Zhang Xiaoyan became a little anxious and said, just the 3 of us can have a cup of coffee. That Mr. Wang is just making trouble over nothing, so don't bother with him. It's not like we're doing anything. We're just meeting each other and checking things out for you. We're still friends now. Lu Feng looked at her and said. Is not? Yes, what are you afraid of? I'll call him. Zhang Fengxia seemed to be watching the excitement and not taking it too seriously. She interrupted Zhang Xiaoyan's words and settled down directly. Zhang Fengxia picked up the phone and called Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang? I'm Fengxia. Zhang Fengxia's voice was indescribably sweet, with a hint of schadenfreude. Mr. Wang had never heard such a sweet voice from Zhang Qian. For a moment, his heart rate became a little unstable. He hurriedly said, Fengxia, why do you think of me? I thought you were angry last time. I really like you. I know, how dare I be angry with Mr. Wang? I just miss you. Not only do I miss you, but Mr. Zhang also misses you. Do you have time now? How about a coffee? Zhang Qian said sweetly. Road. Isn't this a big change for you too? What's wrong? Are you overthinking it? Mr. Wang's voice was trembling. You just want to say whether you're coming or not, Zhang Qian asked. Come on, definitely come. Which coffee shop? Zhang Fengxia reported her address, hung up the phone, looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and said, done. Why did you recruit him? Zhang Xiaoyan was a little worried. Wasn't he looking for trouble? Let's go and drink coffee, Zhang Jianqian said cheerfully. The 2 of them got into Lu Feng's car and headed straight to the coffee shop. Mr. Wang is 38 this year. The company mainly produces raw materials for various daily chemicals. It is considered a large supplier in the industry in Shenzhen. The company's market value has exceeded 100 million. Going out, it is definitely a reputable figure. Mr. Wang made his fortune in the mid-1980s and has experienced a lot over the years. What kind of woman has he not seen before? Zhang Fengxia changed so quickly that he secretly murmured in his heart. I definitely had to go, but before I left, I took 2 people with me from the company's security department to prevent any accidents. In the cafe, Lu Feng ordered a lot of things and had a cup of coffee each. The environment here was very good. After all, those who can come here to spend money are considered to be upper-class people. Lu Feng and Zhang Xiaoyan were chatting about Duo's studies. As long as the little guy pushed a little harder, his test scores would go up immediately. If he relaxed a little, his scores would go down. Zhang Xiaoyan also had a headache after fooling around in school all day long. I'll talk about her tonight, Lu Feng said solemnly. What's the use? I not only scolded you, but also hit you when I got anxious. It's no use to you, Zhang Xiaoyan sighed and said, if you have laid the basics in elementary school, you can also choose a good junior high school. Otherwise, you will be worse with each step. The two of them were muttering, and a man in a suit and leather shoes walked in from the door. He was about 1.7 meters tall, slightly fat, with a Chinese character face, a handsome hairstyle, and a silver suit that was slightly too wide. A wealthy nouveau riche came from the shop. Feel. There were two people following behind him. He glanced around when he entered the store. When he saw Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan, he showed a smile on his face. He led them and walked over. When he came closer and saw Lu Feng, he was slightly startled and smiled. He restrained himself a little and said, "Who is this?" "This is my friend, Mr. Wang, please sit down," Zhang Fengxia said politely. Mr. Wang sat opposite Lu Feng, glanced at the things on the table, and said, "The coffee shops in China are not authentic. If you like drinking coffee, you can fly to the United States, where the authentic ones are." Wow, Mr. Wang is so rich. He can drink coffee and fly halfway around the world. Zhang Fengxia glanced at Lu Feng and said deliberately, "We would never dream of such a thing. I still need quality of life. Otherwise, how long will it take to spend so much money?" Mr. Wang took a sip of coffee and said, "I also have troubles. Too much money is not good. Little bosses like us can't imagine your troubles," Zhang Fengxia joked. Zhang Xiaoyan sat there without saying a word, and Lu Feng also stared at the other person without saying a word, silently watching him bragging. Mr. Wang seemed to feel that the relationship between Lu Feng and Zhang Xiaoyan was different, so he took a look at Lu Feng. Not seeing the brand of his clothes, asked, "What does this friend do?" "I want to open a company and make some money," Lu Feng said to him. These days, having some money is no different than having no money. Men still need to have a thick wallet and a strong back. If you don't have money, you won't have the confidence to speak. A beautiful and capable woman like Mr. Zhang, it is not worthy of ordinary people. Mr. Wang seemed to be showing off and said to Zhang Xiaoyan, "Your car is not worthy of you, I will buy you a Mercedes-Benz from abroad." "No, no, no," Zhang Xiaoyan quickly refused. "The Ben is not good, I think Xiaoyan is suitable for Ferrari." Ferrari recently released a convertible sports car, F355, in red, which is very suitable for you, Lu Feng recommended with a serious face. The red sports car is really suitable for Xiaoyan. This young man, despite being poor, knows so much, Mr. Wang praised and said, "How much does this Ferrari cost?" "It's not expensive. It was launched in May this year." Lu Feng searched his memory and said, "It should be around 5 million. To you, it's not a lot of money." 5 million? Mr. Wang felt a sudden shock in his heart. It would cost 5 million just to give him a car. If he had to take care of the business later, it would cost tens of millions just to pick up a girl. Mr. Wang felt that it was not worth it. But he still said, 3 to 500 and 500 means nothing. "Do you like me? I'll ask someone to contact them to book a car. Just having a sports car isn't enough, why don't we have a place to live?" Lu Feng said again. "I think what he said makes sense. The garage is the foundation." Zhang Fengxia nodded seriously and said, "Buy a big house." "It's not a big house. Mr. Wang is so rich. Xiaoyan will definitely not only live in China in the future. I think Shenzhen must have a big villa, and the decoration should not be shabby. According to the decoration of 1 or 2 million, then Shanghai, Beijing, you must have a house in these places you often go to." Lu Feng took a sip of coffee and continued, "There must be some abroad, too. They are all manners abroad, and there is one in the United States. Just buy one in Manhattan, New York, for 500 yuan. Square meters. Find a good location in Europe and buy a manor. It shouldn't be too big. Management costs are very expensive. Just 200 acres is enough. Zhang Fengxia followed Lu Feng's train of thought and said, you can't drive a sports car when you go abroad. You must have a private jet. That's right. Lu Feng looked at Mr. Wang and found that the smile on Mr. Wang's face was gone. Why is Mr. Wang unhappy? Lu Feng looked at him and said, now that these things are complete, I think we can officially go on a date with Mr. Wang. I think it's about the same. Zhang Fengxia looked at Mr. Wang and said, should you call and ask people to buy a private jet first, or look at the manor? Are you kidding me? Mr. Wang said in a deep voice. No, it's just a joke among friends. Zhang Xiaoyan hurriedly smoothed things over and quietly patted Zhang Fengxia's leg with her hand. Lu Feng stared at him and said, didn't you say you are rich? You can't even provide the conditions for a well-off life, and you still want to go out to pick up girls. If you are poor, just stay at home, don't go out, save money. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 882. Latest website. When Mr. Wang heard this, he sneered and said, why don't you let me buy the earth? Who is this person? A friend, Zhang Fengxia replied. How much money do you have in your pocket? You are talking to me about this and imagining the life of rich people all day long. Do you know how much money you are talking about? Mr. Wang scolded Lu Feng. I told you, the life of a rich person is beyond your imagination, do you understand? Lu Feng spread his hands and said, I don't understand. Mr. Wang could see that this man was just here to cause trouble. He waved to the man next to him, pressed a leather bag over and took out a wad of money, more than 1,000. He threw it in front of Lu Feng and said, take the money and go out to play. Come on, don't stay here. Aren't you a rich man? Just this little money, Lu Feng mocked, with your worth, you can't even send a beggar away, right? Mr. Wang was a little angry. He stared at Lu Feng and said, brother, are you looking for trouble with me here? He looked at Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan next to him. Zhang Fengxia looked carefree and didn't mind the matter. Zhang Xiaoyan stirred the coffee in front of her and remained silent. Mr. Wang seemed to understand the scene and let out a disdainful scoff. Why did he just find such a pretty boy to challenge him? Don't overestimate your capabilities. I'm not looking for trouble, I'm just telling the truth. If you don't have money, don't come out. Lu Feng looked at him and said, is this the truth? Ha ha ha, Mr. Wang laughed twice, lit a cigarette, and said, then how much money do you have? As a poor guy, what qualifications do you have to say this in front of me? Let me tell you, I'm looking at you. I'm young and don't have the same experience as you, so don't wait for me to get angry, do you understand? Who said I'm poor? Fortunately, I have a company. Lu Feng looked at him and said. A company? Mr. Wang was happy and said, registering a company does not mean that there is a company in your name. Let me tell you this, my company now has nearly 2,000 people, and the monthly salary expenditure is fast. It's over 1 million, and the income it creates is beyond your imagination. With 2,000 people and a salary of almost 1 million, you really don't earn much by working for you. Lu Feng sighed and said, then how can a small company like yours earn 100 million? I have 100 million, not earn 100 million. Do you have any idea about the unit of 100 million? Do you know how much it costs? Mr. Wang scolded, take the money and go out to play, and set up a small shabby company like mine. What are you pretending to be? I haven't started pretending yet, Lu Feng said helplessly. No need to pretend, I can see through what's in your stomach at a glance. What can you do for them? Can you give them a good life? Are you rich? Mr. Wang tapped his fingers on the table and said, isn't it just good looking? What's the use of being handsome? Can you be used as food? Xiao Yan, Fengxia, you only find men to dress and eat? Yes, I agree with this very much, so I want to find a rich man. This kid boasted to me that he is very rich. I brought him to see Mr. Wang today just to open his eyes. Zhang Fengxia met Lu Feng, who had been tepid all along, wanted to stimulate him and said, if you don't have much money, we can leave with Mr. Wang. Fengxia, what are you talking about? Zhang Xiaoyan raised her head and was dissatisfied. Just talk about it. Now we are competing to see who has more money, so let's just do it. Mr. Wang was obviously very used to the situation of throwing money at people. He unbuttoned his suit and asked Lu Feng, you just tell me how much money you have in your personal account now. My personal account. Lu Feng really didn't have much money in his personal account. All his food and drinks were considered as company expenses. He wasn't sure how much his salary was. He thought about it and said, maybe tens of thousands. The two people brought by Mr. Wang stood aside and chuckled. Tens of thousands of dollars is money. It's gone after you go out and spend money. Young man, I've seen you since you first walked in. The suit you're wearing is very cheap. It doesn't even have a mark. Did you see me? This mark is Burberry. A suit costs over 100,000, and a pair of socks costs hundreds. Lu Feng has never seen such a rich competition, competing for clothes or socks. This really opened his eyes, and he couldn't help but laugh. Zhang Fengxia was so happy when she sat aside, she was simply a turtle spirit among the country turtles. I don't know what I'm wearing. I can't find the brand anyway. Lu Feng searched for it but couldn't find it. His clothes were arranged by the company. Whatever he wears should be custom made. Young man, can you imagine my kind of life? I just give you a simple example of basic necessities, food, housing, and transportation. I don't want to say more about the rest, for fear of impacting your consumption concept. People are different, understand? Mr. Wang persuaded with some sincerity. I haven't said how much money I have yet. Lu Feng said that he wanted to compare with him. There's no need to throw that person away, Mr. Wang said confidently. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't help laughing. The two security guards standing by saw that this young man was so disrespectful. They couldn't help it and said, it's almost done. Let's go. Our Mr. Wang is of good quality and we don't want to fight with you, don't act rogue here. It's better to know your eyes, understand? The tone of the two people was very unkind. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at them and frowned, how can we talk? What does it have to do with you two if we sit here and chat for a while? Don't talk nonsense, Mr. Wang scolded him, turning back to Lu Feng and saying, why are you still shamelessly staying here? I'm not being shameless. I judged you as the winner before I showed myself to you. This game is unplayable. Lu Feng was speechless. Young man, being poor is not scary. What's scary is that being poor doesn't have self-esteem, Mr. Wang shouted, do you understand? I'm already very patient with you, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Ouch, you scared me to death. Let's do this. Let's compete with each other. We will win or lose in one round. If I lose, I'll leave now. If you lose, you can't harass these two people again in the future. Do you understand? Feng stared at him and said. Okay, it's a deal. Mr. Wang really didn't know where the young man in front of him got his confidence. Maybe he wanted to find a step for himself, and he was happy to give him this step. Does Mr. Wang cooperate with banks? For example, fund transactions, loans, etc. Lu Feng asked. Yes, I have a lot of loans from Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. What's wrong? Okay, then I'll call the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. Lu Feng said to the waiter with a smile, Is there a wireless phone? Is it convenient to bring it over? Yes, sir. A wireless phone was placed on the table. Lu Feng first called the ICBC headquarters. After the call was connected, Lu Feng said to the operator, "I'm Lu Feng. Please transfer the line to your president. Just say I'm Jiafeng Lu Feng." "Okay, please wait a moment." The rich fight here has attracted many people, especially a few beautifully dressed girls sitting not far away. When Mr. Wang showed how expensive his clothes were, they stared at them with bright eyes. Obviously, Mr. Wang usually drinks this kind of stuff. "Why are you calling the bank? Are you looking for a loan now? Let me tell you, even if you take out all the money in the bank, you still can't beat me," Mr. Wang said with great confidence. Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't stand it anymore, and whispered to Zhang Fengxia next to her, "Why are you instigating this matter? What's the point of playing house like a child? It's fun. I'll see how Mr. Wang brags this time, so I'll show off in front of a poor guy like us." Zhang Fengxia muttered with a bit of a bad smile, "Find him a big one this time." When the president of the headquarters heard that it was Jiafeng Lu Feng, he said he could put the call in. After the call was connected, he said, "Mr. Lu, what brought you here? Now you are not short of money. You are the richest in the country, all right." "Ha ha ha, hello, I'm having some trouble here. I might need you to give me a call. There is a boss who said that I don't have many connections. I'll call you now. Can you ask your branch to call me? He called me and told him that if he provokes me again, his loan will be stopped," Lu Feng said with a smile. "What's going on? Are you quarreling with others? Which company?" The president was a little confused. If it was a small business, he would definitely be willing to do a favor, but he was afraid that Lu Feng would be quarrelsome with some large state-owned enterprise bosses, which would not be good for him. "Done. What's the name of your company?" Lu Feng asked Mr. Wang. "Tianming Material." Mr. Wang stared at Lu Feng and said, "Is your phone connected? Why didn't I hear anyone talking inside?" As soon as these words came out, the whole room burst into laughter, and even the little girls at the counter covered their mouths in laughter. However, it was indeed a bit magical to have a cup of coffee and call the president of the ICBC headquarters. He said the company's name is Tianming Materials, and his surname is Wang. It should be a branch in Luohu district. "Okay, okay. I'll treat you to dinner when you have time." Lu Feng hung up the phone after being polite. "Finished? What did the president say?" Mr. Wang joked. "Didn't he say that he would allocate several $100 million to you and directly make you a billionaire? A few $100 million won't make any money, so that's not a big deal." Lu Feng looked at him calmly and said, "You don't sound too gentle. Okay, I'll give you a step, let's go now." Mr. Wang waved his hand. "Wait a little longer, don't worry." Lu Feng picked up the coffee and drank it all in one gulp, and said, "Have another cup, and get some fruit on the way. I'm giving you a chance. Don't be shameless. When it's my turn to call, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave." Mr. Wang threatened. President Wang called someone, and everyone understood instantly. Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't help but said, "Okay, let's just meet together." "President Wang, I made it very clear to you before." "Shut up, do you have the right to speak?" Mr. Wang stared at Zhang Xiaoyan and said coldly. "Then it seems that you have the right to speak. Who do you want to shut up?" The smile on Lu Feng's face disappeared instantly. The two people behind Mr. Wang saw that something was wrong, so they took a step forward and stared at Lu Feng fiercely, as if they were about to take action at any time. "Oh, you are so poor, are you? I'll throw money at you to death, do you believe it or not?" Mr. Wang shouted. Jingle bell. Jingle bell. Whose phone is ringing? Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 883. Latest website. Be mine. Mr. Wang stood up with a leather bag hanging on his waist. He opened it and took out a Motorola mobile phone. He picked up the phone and said, "Hey, who's there? I am the president of the Luohu district branch of ICBC. Mr. Wang, have you offended someone?" asked the other end of the phone. "Who have I offended?" Mr. Wang had a bad feeling in his heart. He raised his head and glanced at Lu Feng. His relationship with President Yu was not bad, so he asked, "What's wrong?" "The boss of the head office called me personally and asked me to tell you something. If you provoke Mr. Lu again, your loan will be stopped." "What?" Mr. Wang was so shocked that he ignored the voice on the phone and looked at Lu Feng in shock. Did he really call the president of the head office just now? How could such a big leader personally call and give instructions for such a trivial matter? This is such a huge honor. From this point of view, it is enough to see how close the relationship between Lu Feng and the bank is. Jia Feng can call any bank now and the other party will give him face. After all, the $3.5 billion contract in Europe will be signed soon. After the money arrives, he must find a bank to deposit it. With such a large amount of foreign exchange funds, many banks are jealous of it. I'm telling you, don't provoke others, otherwise I won't be able to make the decision for you, you know. Let me ask, how old is the Mr. Lu you are talking about? What does he look like?" Mr. Wang glanced at Lu Feng and asked in a lowered voice. "Jia Feng Group, you don't know? You just recently raised us $3.5 billion from overseas, which shocked the world. Don't you know?" The other end of the phone was speechless. "I'm just staring at the raw materials of daily chemicals." "Why am I staring at him?" Mr. Wang said aggrievedly. "Quite young, 25 or 6. I'm not sure. He has an oval face and is quite fair." Mr. Wang felt like he was numb, so he hung up the phone with a few polite words. He knew without asking that the handsome young man in front of him was Mr. Lu. For him, Jia Feng Electronics is a cross-industry and he doesn't understand it. But for such a young person to raise us $3.5 billion from abroad, is he an ordinary person? Coupled with the foreign manners and private jets that Lu Feng mentioned just now, it seems that they are really basic configurations for others. Heh, he. Mr. Wang laughed awkwardly, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu from Jia Feng Group, right? So what if it is? So what if it's not?" Zhang Fengxia teased Mr. Wang. "Mr. Wang, what's wrong with you? Didn't you just say you would buy us a sports car?" "It's just a joke," Mr. Wang said with a smile. "Isn't that funny?" Lu Feng looked at him from his seat and said, "Has the fight for wealth you mentioned just now come to an end?" Okay, Mr. Lu, how about having dinner together tonight? I'll treat you." Mr. Wang's reaction was not slow, and he quickly showed his businessman's Philistine side and said, "Our company in terms of daily chemical raw materials, it is considered a regional leader. If you are interested, you can find out more." "Not interested," Lu Feng said to him. "If you have nothing else to do, you can leave." Mr. Wang pressed his hot face against his cold buttocks, a little embarrassed, and glanced at Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia. He would never dare to touch a hair of these two women in the future. But he didn't care. The most indispensable thing in the world was young and beautiful women. If he could hook up with a big boss like Lu Feng, it would be worth more than having any number of beautiful women. "Then I'll go first. This is my business card. If you have time to come out to dinner, I'll treat you." Mr. Wang put the business card on the table very politely, turned around and took the person away. The originally quiet store became even quieter now. The clerk at the bar stared with big eyes, and several girls not far away were also dumbfounded. They never dreamed that Mr. Wang, who seemed to have a lot of money, would lose. They just heard Mr. Wang say that he was worth over 100 million, so how rich is this young and handsome man? The girls in the distance couldn't sit still, and had already asked Mr. Wang to run away. This young and handsome man had to stay. One of them stood up, walked over on high heels, and said to Lu Feng, "Hello, let me meet you, my name is Nana." "What's the date?" Lu Feng asked. "Number 3, from." The girl also felt that she had leaked something, so she turned away. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at the girl who turned away with some confusion and asked, "What's wrong?" "It's all about the club, you don't understand." Lu Feng looked at the time, it was already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and said, "Let's have a meal together, and pick up Duo by the way. Go home and cook. Don't you have to give Duo a gift? If you give her a gift, you won't be left to eat. You are quite busy." Zhang Xiaoyan stood up and said, "I'm cooking, I'm not busy." "Fengxia, what do you think?" Lu Feng had no choice but to look at Zhang Fengxia. "I think Zhang Fengxia is the elder of the two, why should you leave this matter to yourself?" Zhang Xiaoyan secretly gave Zhang Fengxia a look. She knew better than anyone else what Lu Feng wanted to do when he stayed at home. She had given up half the time last time. If it continued like this, it would be nothing. Is this considered a divorce or not? Zhang Fengxia hesitated for a long time and then said, "You two should take a look, I don't know. Let's get together. I'm busy and I don't have time. I just want to chat with Duo tonight." The little girl Pianza said she missed me last time she called me, Lu Feng said very naturally. When Zhang Xiaoyan heard this, her heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, she looked at Zhang Fengxia and said, "Then you can stay at my place tonight, and we'll have a morning meeting tomorrow morning." "This isn't appropriate. Let's go buy groceries." Zhang Xiaoyan took Zhang Fengxia's arm and walked out. After Lu Feng paid the bill, he could clearly feel that Zhang Xiaoyan was no longer as clueless as before. She was just not good at speaking in front of Lu Feng, but her thoughts were still very firm. It's not that she's afraid of fighting with Lu Feng, but if Lu Feng keeps fighting like this, how can he find another one if Lu Feng's heart is with her? There was a huge flow of people at the school gate. Lu Feng stood at the school gate and watched. Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia stood behind them, muttering to each other. "What's wrong? It won't help if I stay. He's finally free. It will be difficult to see him again next time," Zhang Fengxia whispered. "We are all divorced. It's not appropriate to stay with me. If something happens, will this marriage be considered a divorce or not? Oh, with the situation you two are in, it's only a matter of time before you get married, right? Besides, if I live in that room and you and Duo sleep in the master bedroom, where will he sleep? Sleep on your bed. Screw you, he is rich now. If the company needs financing, it is easy to develop with such a person. If you don't see Mr. Wang and the girl he is chatting with, you are eager to stick to him. You just think you know a big boss," Zhang Fengxia persuaded. "I kept you here just to let him go. I'm short of money and I can work by myself. I don't rely on anyone. I can live by myself," Zhang Xiaoyan said with a bit of anger. "You are great, but you are embarrassed when I go there." "What? Do you really want to share a husband with me, my sister?" Zhang Fengxia teased in Zhang Xiaoyan's ear. "You really can say anything. I'll tell you a dirty joke, ha 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 ha. Don't listen, don't listen. It's at the school gate. Mr. Zhang has some skills, okay. Ha 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 ha." Zhang Fengxia lay on her shoulder and twitched with joy. Lu Feng turned around. The sun was setting. Zhang Xiaoyan was standing there with Zhang Fengxia lying on her shoulders. At this moment, they seemed to be a couple. "Dad. Dad." Duo's voice was very penetrating, his skull bag was hanging down, his forehead was covered with sweat, and he was running towards Lu Feng excitedly. "Oh, hey, he's grown taller." Lu Feng held her up and picked her up. Seeing her flushed face, he stretched out his hand to wipe away the sweat and said, "Run slowly, I'll make you tired." "Dad, where's the gun?" Duoduo's eyes widened with hope. Well, it's not easy to buy, but I brought you a doll and a suitcase. Lu Feng said to her, Dad, let's take you to see it. I don't want to look, I want a gun. Duoduo, is this your dad? A little boy of 8 or 9 years old ran over, followed by several sneaky little guys. Didn't you say that your father is in the United States? Doesn't he have a gun? Yes. Your dad has it, my dad has it, Duoduo argued, then turned to look at Lu Feng. Lu Feng saw that this child was being bullied by a few kids, and asked the skinny boy in front of him, Does your dad have a gun? Yes, he said to Lu Feng in a particularly arrogant manner, My dad is better than you. His father lives in the United States. That's right, they have always lived there. Unlike you, you only come back after a few days. Slightly. Your dad returned to China with a gun? Where is your dad? Lu Feng asked with a smile. My dad didn't bring it, but he recorded a CD and came back. My dad is better than you, the little guy held his head high. You don't care about studying all day long. I don't know what you are thinking about. Zhang Xiaoyan walked over and looked at Duoduo and said angrily. Duoduo was so frightened that he hugged Lu Feng's legs and hid. Hey, isn't this the child of Lao Kui's family? Is your father back from the United States? Asked a woman in her 30s. Yes, you even brought me delicious food. After finishing speaking, the little guy said to the other children, Be honest with me, or else you won't have anything to eat. The children were all well behaved and nodded one after another. How old are you? You're just doing this. Where are your parents? Lu Feng asked the child. What's wrong? Why are you bullying a child? The woman next to him glanced at Lu Feng and said, Don't think that he is easy to bully. Let me tell you, his father is an American right away. Do you understand? What does it have to do with Americans? Lu Feng comforted Duoduo and said, It's inappropriate for him to use this matter to bully people at such a young age. Seeing that Lu Feng was helpless, the little guy shouted at Duoduo with a sullen look on his face, Your dad can't do it? Your dad just can't do it? Which man could bear this? Lu Feng's expression changed and he shouted at him, Call your mother over if you dare. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 884. Latest website. Many people at the scene looked over to see what an adult was arguing with a child. Why are you acting like a child? How can such a big man bully a child? I'm telling you, you're about the same, otherwise his father will come and kill you, the woman next to him warned. That's right, why are you angry with a child? Isn't it normal for children to make noises? The people who were picking up the children were all talking. When Duoduo saw everyone talking about his father, he immediately became anxious and ran over and said, He was the one who talked about me first. He wanted to compare with me. I said that my father was rich, but he couldn't compare with me, so he said that his father was in the United States, and a gun. Okay, what's the big deal? Are there any poor people going to school here? That's right. The kid has a loud mouth, but he can actually listen and speak. Lu Feng looked at the various voices all around him, glanced at them, and said, What does it have to do with you? What do you mean it's none of our business? You're an adult, bullying a child. What's the fun? Besides, my father is in the United States. Didn't you hear me? Are they ordinary people? A man shouted at Lu Feng, You are just looking for trouble. I'm telling you, his dad just came back 2 days ago. If you annoy others, you'll get the best of you, the woman said to the child, Call your dad. He has a big family and can be bullied already. My dad is buying cigarettes on the street in front. He will be here soon. The kid raised his head and stared at Lu Feng and said, I'm not afraid of him. My dad has a gun, just a little bit. Lu Feng didn't want to be like a child, so he reached out and touched Duoduo's head and said, "Forget it, let's go back, Daddy will prepare something delicious for you." Duoduo seemed a little aggrieved, but still nodded obediently and agreed. Lu Feng took Duoduo and was about to leave when the woman who knew the little guy quit and shouted at Lu Feng, "You want to leave after bullying others? Who told you to leave? You are so lawless." Zhang Xiaoyan didn't want to get involved, but at this moment she turned around and frowned, and walked forward 2 steps. "Who bullied someone? There is something wrong with the child. As a parent, you can't ask a few questions. Who are you?" Okay, Lu Feng saw Zhang Xiaoyan was a little annoyed and hurriedly gave her a hand. "What's so good? This is a shame. Last time the school organized a spring outing, I didn't have time to go, so you gave me the food. In order to save so much money, put it in your pocket." The 2 children eat a box of rice. "Is it your fault, Lili's mother?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Hey! How can you slander someone? Look, she is slandering me." The woman suddenly became anxious and argued with a higher tone, "I am here as a parent, I just help the children clean up, money matters, that's all the school's business." Let me tell you, Zhang Xiaoyan, don't think that opening a shabby factory and having a little money can make you arrogant. Who are you? Who am I? I'm better than you. I have a factory and I have money. You know what to search for in class all day long. It's normal for children to have bumps and bumps. Why don't you even ask? Here. You are amazing," Zhang Xiaoyan shouted coldly. "I can't stand what's wrong? You have a lot of money, how awesome are you?" The woman refused to let him go. She looked like she was about to make a fuss if she took 2 steps forward. "That's almost enough," Zhang Fengxia stepped forward and said, "Does this make sense to you?" Lu Feng wanted to say something, but couldn't. He silently watched Zhang Xiaoyan standing there arguing, a little dazed. Is this the Zhang Xiaoyan he knew? Is she the one who was blocked at the door and scolded because of a few cents, so she only dared to squat at the door and cry? The quarrel between the 2 parties became more and more intense. It was no longer just about the children. Some old sesame and rotten millet matters in the school were brought out. More and more people began to watch and comment from time to time. Lu Feng also got the general idea that this child was not in the same class as Duoduo. He was not a good person in the class and was often looked for by other parents. The family also has some money. I heard that his father is doing well in the United States and is about to get a green card. Many people in the school dare not offend him. After all, he can live in the United States and get a green card. In the current environment in China, definitely not ordinary people, who are either very rich or have strong connections. Just argue with me. You will know what regret means when my father comes. Let me tell you, no matter how rich you are, if you are not enough in front of others, if they call you, you will go to jail," the woman said fiercely. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't understand the law either, so she was frightened for a moment and didn't know what to say. "I'm telling you, my dad is amazing. He was amazing in the United States," the little guy yelled at Lu Feng. "I want to see who is so powerful." Lu Feng also got angry and said in a deep voice, "An American is still making trouble here." A man's voice appeared on the street corner in front. The boy recognized it at a glance and shouted, "Dad, someone is bullying me." "What?" The man responded and walked quickly towards the side. The crowd at the scene became restless, and they all wanted to see the characters who had returned from the United States. Going abroad is now popular and can see the outside world. He is definitely the leader among the crowd. The man walked closer and closer, with a somewhat angry expression on his face. He dared to bully his son, he was simply reckless. In just a few days since he came back, Lao Kui had already become the glory of the family, and no one should look down upon him when he met him. Not to mention family members, neighbors also need to be polite. "Who? Who bullied my son? Damn fuck Lao Kui cursed handsomely in English. That's them, Li Li's mother pointed at Zhang Xiaoyan's group of people in a harsh voice. Dad, take care of them, the little guy said domineeringly. Lao Kui first looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and scolded, what's going on? You're embarrassing a kid. Do you know who I am? Let me tell you, I just came back from the United States. You have to be reasonable when you come back from the United States, right? Lu Feng said to him. Who are you, Mr. Lu, Mr. Lu? Lao Kui stuttered and looked at Lu Feng with wide eyes. He didn't expect that they would see each other again in just a few days after seeing each other in a Chinese restaurant. Jack, Lu Feng looked at him. He didn't expect that a cook who was cooking in the United States could be so arrogant and domineering when he came back. This really opened Lu Feng's eyes. I really didn't realize that there is such a side to me. I'm sorry, I don't know how to teach my son. Master Kui panicked. As soon as these words came out, everyone around him was dumbfounded, and the boy was even dumbfounded on the spot. The omnipotent father in his heart seemed to have met someone he couldn't afford to mess with this time. You have a gun in the United States, Lu Feng stared at him and asked, you don't even have a green card, where did you get the gun? I don't have a gun, it belongs to the boss, I'll use it for fun. Master Kui was a little embarrassed, looked at his son, and scolded, you are causing trouble all the time, can't you be more worry-free? You know how to be naughty. The little guy lost his supporter and suddenly didn't dare to speak. Li Li's mother saw that Master Kui was also afraid of Lu Feng. Although she didn't know why she was afraid, she didn't dare to speak either. Lu Feng knew that Zhang Xiaoyan's identity might not be suppressed in this school. He looked around and said solemnly, it's just for children to go to school. Why are there so many things? Is the school a pure place? I still hope that the teacher will. If you can hold a bowl of water evenly, don't blame me for being rude. The students have almost left, only a few watching are left. Now you look at me, I look at you, and you don't dare to speak. The old man in the security booth not far away took a sip of huazi, drank a sip of tea, spat on the tea foam, and said with a smile, these people, I have already told the director that Duoduo's father is not an ordinary person, so I still don't believe it. After the matter calmed down, Lu Feng said to Zhang Xiaoyan, okay, because the child has something to do and is making such a big fuss, let's go back to buy groceries and cook. Zhang Xiaoyan turned around and walked towards the car. The family got in the car. On the way, Zhang Xiaoyan talked about a lot of things in school. A lot of things can cause trouble, so she often runs to school. All kinds of big troubles are enough to distract people. I didn't expect you to argue with her. Lu Feng turned to look at Zhang Xiaoyan, the co-pilot. I've gotten used to it during this period. I wasn't used to quarreling at the beginning. It's hard to argue with partners and employees at the company, teachers and other parents at school. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at it a little tiredly. Lu Feng glanced at him and said, fortunately, I don't have to make a fuss when I get home. When did I have an argument with you? Lu Feng said awkwardly. It seems that there was less noise in the past few years. Forget it, let's not mention it. Zhang Xiaoyan pointed to the left and said, that's the supermarket over there. I went to the supermarket and bought a lot of meat and a lot of snacks. The four of us packed large and small bags. It was like celebrating the new year, and the car could hardly fit in it. The family was very lively. It had not been this lively for a long time. Duoduo was busy looking at the dolls, Lu Feng put on his apron, and Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia were busy making preparations. At 7 o'clock in the evening, as the news broadcast started, a table of hot meals was served on the table. Duoduo, stop playing, let's eat. Zhang Xiaoyan shouted, remember to do your homework after eating. Oh. Duoduo sat on the chair, raised his head and looked at Lu Feng, then at Zhang Fengxia, and asked, Mom, where should I sleep tonight? You sleep with Mom. What about Dad? Duo looked at Zhang Fengxia with innocent eyes and said, with Aunt Fengxia. Ha 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 ha, Zhang Fengxia laughed. Aunt Fengxia is so happy, Duo said happily. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Fengxia seemed to recall something, her smile stopped, she gave Duo a chicken drumstick, and said, eat your food. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't know what to say, she just watched the news silently. It was already past 8 o'clock in the evening after dinner. Go back, I can't sleep here, Zhang Xiaoyan said. Okay. Well, I'll wash the dishes and then leave. Lu Feng stood up and put away the dishes. No, 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 you are such a big boss, don't get involved in this, I'll wash the dishes, Zhang Xiaoyan rushed to say. I have to wash it after I've washed it. Lu Feng grabbed it and walked into the kitchen. Duo was doing homework, while Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia were chatting about things in the factory. Unknowingly, it was almost 10 o'clock in the evening, and Lu Feng hadn't finished washing the dishes. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 885. Latest website. Zhang Xiaoyan had already packed up another room, sat on the sofa and said to Zhang Fengxia, you can sleep in that room. What about him? Zhang Fengxia asked. You haven't left yet, Zhang Xiaoyan said a little surprised. Still washing dishes. Zhang Fengxia couldn't laugh or cry. Ah! Zhang Xiaoyan was shocked. She stood up and went to the kitchen. When she saw Lu Feng still standing there washing dishes, she said, how many bowls have you washed until now? Bowls and chopsticks are all things that come into your mouth. You have to be more careful when washing them. Lu Feng said nonchalantly, it's okay. I'll finish washing them soon. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't know what he was thinking, so she said, we are all divorced, so please stop doing this. Fengxia is here today. What happened to me? Am I not helping you wash the dishes? Lu Feng looked at her and said. Stop washing, I'll do it. It's so late, go back early, Zhang Xiaoyan said and started to wash the dishes. Lu Feng was also a little tired from washing. He sat down in the living room, glanced at Duo and asked, have you finished your homework? I'm done writing, I'm sleepy, Duo yawned. Go to bed. Lu Feng glanced at the things he bought on the coffee table. There was a bottle of white wine that was not opened. He took it over and unscrewed the cap, took 2 sips and said, is this Urquioto good? Zhang Fengxia looked at him with a smile and whispered, I won't leave tonight, I will make you mad. Do you want to leave? Lu Feng took another sip and said with a breath of cold air in his mouth, listen up. 10 minutes later, Zhang Xiaoyan washed the dishes and tidied up the kitchen. She saw Lu Feng half slumped on the sofa, as if he was drunk. What's going on? Zhang Xiaoyan said helplessly. I drank too much and can't leave. Lu Feng was lying on the sofa, his eyes blurred and said, at this point, it's too late, just stay here. Seeing this situation, Zhang Fengxia had no choice but to come out to the rescue and said, it's not safe to drink and drive. Let him sleep on the sofa. Zhang Xiaoyan could only compromise, looked at Zhang Fengxia and said, go to rest early. After helping Lu Feng upright, they turned off the lights in the living room and Duo slept in the master bedroom. Of course, Zhang Fengxia knew what would happen at night, so she suggested that she sleep with Duo. At 11 o'clock, the room was dark. Lu Feng quietly opened his eyes, quietly sat up, lit a cigarette and started smoking. He smoked half of it and put it out in the ashtray. He stood up and walked towards the master bedroom. He held his breath and moved lightly. His hand was already on the armrest of the door lock. Taking a deep breath, Lu Feng felt that his heartbeat was a little faster. He pressed it slowly, for fear of making a sound. A little movement. The door opened, and in the darkness Lu Feng saw two people lying on the bed. One was Duo, and the other's face could not be seen clearly. He closed the door and walked in with his heels on. After touching the bed, Lu Feng stretched out his arms and hugged her. The person in the darkness murmured a few words. Lu Feng began to become restless, searching up and down, and whispered, "Let me carry Duo out." Zhang Fengxia was dazed, a little annoyed after being woken up, but when she felt something on her skin, she woke up instantly, looked at the person in front of her with wide eyes, and whispered, "What are you doing?" F***ck, Lu Feng was shocked when he heard Zhang Fengxia's voice and asked, "Why is it you?" "I'll sleep with Duo in my arms in this room." After Zhang Fengxia finished speaking, she was stunned for a moment, then lowered her voice and said, "Hands." Oh, I'm sorry, she is sleeping in that room." "Ouch," Lu Feng apologized hastily, "I'm sorry." "Why are you so shameless? Are you squeezing your hands?" Zhang Fengxia gritted her teeth. Lu Feng took his hand back and whispered, "What do you think she is thinking? She is not a child anymore. You are tormenting me. I have the time." The other hand, Zhang Fengxia was about to hit someone. "That's not mine, that's Duo." Lu Feng was also anxious. Zhang Fengxia took a look and saw that there were so many things. She sighed and said, "She really does as you please. After all, she is my daughter after all. Please give her some advice when you have time. As for the child, I know there is an artificial technology that should be successful in the next few years. Please give her some advice," Lu Feng said to her. Road. She is quite happy now. I think she should be much happier than before. She told me last year to let me be with you." Zhang Fengxia sighed, sat up and leaned on the bed and said, "I think she is in over her head now. That energy should have passed, but do you have time? You are as busy as a top, so you should be single." Lu Feng wanted to say something, and after thinking about it for a while, it seemed that Fengxia was right. He really didn't have much time recently, and they needed to cultivate their relationship again. "Then let's watch it later." Lu Feng got out of bed, turned around and said, "Go to bed early. Don't go into the wrong room again, it looks like you did it on purpose." Zhang Fengxia lay down and muttered a few words, hugged Duo into her arms, and muttered, "Sleep well, don't listen blindly." Lu Feng walked into the room opposite. Zhang Xiaoyan was still asleep. She turned her head and glanced at Lu Feng and said, "Go back to your sofa and sleep. It's not comfortable on the sofa, so squeeze in." "You don't want it." Before Zhang Xiaoyan could finish her words, Lu Feng was already lying next to her and began to become restless. When he decided not to leave, Zhang Xiaoyan already knew what was going to happen and said hurriedly, "They are all divorced. It's shameful of you. It didn't work last time, and now it's here again. Didn't you take advantage of it enough? It's not enough to take advantage of me. I don't know why, but I think you're getting prettier and prettier." Lu Feng turned slightly sideways, trying to press forward. "Come on, you don't lack women. But I'm missing you." Zhang Xiaoyan was just about to speak, but her mouth was already blocked. The night is already deep, and in countless dark rooms, people are doing things they should do at night. For many people who have just tasted it, every night is a magical night. As Li Lin pushed forward with the signing of the Schroders Group contract, the matter finally became unstoppable and spread throughout Wall Street and also reached the ears of Shi Watanabe. Lu Feng had returned to China inexplicably, and he already felt that something was wrong. When this incident came out, Watanabe was shocked. He didn't expect that Lu Feng's false shot on Wall Street would turn out to be the City of London. $35 billion. Watanabe said with gritted teeth. Such a large investment would attract people's attention in the world. Even if Watanabe established his own company and solicited investment, he might not be able to get such a huge investment. Although Watanabe she didn't know how Lu Feng got the investment, he knew that Wall Street was in a very embarrassing situation at the moment. Although companies like Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan stood up and said that GFN Electronics had no investment value, there were still rumors that GFN Electronics had no investment value. It was a trap set up by Wall Street, and Schroders Group was defrauded of us $3.5 billion this time. Various mixed news is circulating internationally, but the only thing that is certain is that GFN is really going to get the money. Watanabe thought about it for a long time and suddenly murmured, "Isn't this a good opportunity for me? It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." He looked happy and called Eisen immediately. "Hello, Eisen. This is she Watanabe." "Watanabe," she said into the phone, "I have something to do with Mr. Lambert, which is related to GFN Electronics. I will help you ask." A few minutes later, the call was transferred. Lambert still knew Watanabe. When he was the CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lambert was a fund manager at another financial company. "Hello, Mr. Watanabe, long time no see," Lambert answered the phone with some emotion. He was once a man of the hour and was known as the youngest CEO to enter the World Bank. However, he lost in some battles. He failed, put on a hat to seduce the wife of the major shareholder and left. "Yeah, long time no see. I just learned about GFN Group's financing. I don't know the specific details, but I am now in charge of Motorola's overseas industry and compete with GFN Electronics in many aspects. If you need any help, just ask," Watanabe said straightforwardly without beating around the bush. Lambert was stunned for a moment when he heard this. He had been thinking about how to get Lufeng for the past 2 days. Such a large investment would definitely not be made in one go and received in several installments. Before the payment was received, GFN Electronics' operating conditions declined significantly. Even if Schroeder Group doesn't believe Wall Street, it will withdraw its investment as soon as it sees the situation. Motorola's confrontation with GFN Group seems to be a bit bullying, doesn't it? Lambert said with a smile. "Since Mr. Watanabe is willing to do something, then go ahead and do it." What Watanabe wants is not this sentence, but a favor, saying, "If Mr. Lambert wants me to do this, I will do it without any hesitation." Lambert knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and he was afraid that he would be in debt for this favor, so he said, "Mr. Watanabe, go ahead and do it. If there is any need for me in the future, just ask." "Okay, with your words, I feel relieved and won't bother you too much." Lambert said a few polite words and hung up the phone. Watanabe took a deep breath, with a bit of hope in his eyes. After working in the country for so many years, he finally had an opportunity. He wanted to get back everything he had lost. It was already late at night, but Watanabe still picked up the phone and called the Thailand branch. If no one answered the phone, he would call 10. At around 12 o'clock in the night, the president of Motorola Thailand branch was woken up from his dream. "Tell him the old phone number of the headquarters." Cursing, he went to answer the phone. "Mr. Watanabe, I am Shatai. I am the president of the Thailand branch. What are your orders? Now I'm officially informing you of something. From now on, we will carry out targeted attacks on all GFN Group's products in the Thai market. I don't care what means you use. Within a month, I want them to be launched on the market," Watanabe shouted. "Yes. Got it? Got it?" Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 886. Latest website. The next day, Zhang Xiaoyan got up early. The factory was still under development. Unlike Lu Feng, she had to keep an eye on every aspect of the factory. It had become a habit to wake up early and stay late. Except for Lu Feng, everyone was up. Duo had to go to school and packed up early. In the kitchen, Zhang Fengxia winked at her. "What do you look like? Hurry up and have breakfast." Go to the meeting. Zhang Xiaoyan walked out with a bowl of porridge. Are you excited? Don't talk nonsense. The child is still there, and so is he. They are all divorced and doing this, Zhang Xiaoyan said helplessly. I don't want to leave. I was told that if there are any foreign technologies, the child's matter can be easily solved. Zhang Fengxia tried to help. I'm busy, I don't have time. Let's talk about it later. I finally understand now that women still have to have their own affairs. Staying at home all day long, like a widow, is not a problem after all, Zhang Xiaoyan said while eating breakfast. Are you a strong woman now? Zhang Fengxia joked. If you can stand alone, I will go back to Jiafeng. The company is so big now. Go, and wait for him. If you don't do your business well, you will worry about others, Zhang Xiaoyan said with a smile. No, Zhang Fengxia hurriedly surrendered. The two get along exceptionally well and can be said to have been inseparable for such a long time. Zhang Xiaoyan feels that Zhang Fengxia is more like her biological sister than Zhang Xiaohong. After eating, let's go, Zhang Xiaoyan said holding Duoduo's school bag. Dad is still sleeping. Let him sleep. The three of them went out and closed the door with a bang. In Thailand, Bangkok, Jiafeng specialty stores have opened more than 70 stores here through cooperation, and are also developing rapidly in other cities. Kai Wen cooperated with local enterprises and chose to share profits with them. The other party provided venues, publicity, sales channels, logistics, etc., while Jiafeng Electronics provided products, store decoration, brand marketing, personnel wages, etc. The cooperation between the two parties was very pleasant, and the development was naturally rapid. In a short period of time, Jiafeng opened the market by relying on high quality and low price. But this morning, as soon as the store door opened, a group of people rushed in, smashed it, and then walked away. More than 70 stores were all damaged to varying degrees, and one of them was set on fire. The clerks were threatened that if they worked for Jiafeng Electronics again, they would face the consequences. One morning, all the sales channels operated by Jiafeng Electronics in Bangkok were paralyzed. When Kevin got the news, everyone was stunned. He immediately called the police and then contacted the cooperative company. After finishing all this, I remembered to report to the headquarters. After 3 o'clock in the day, Lu Feng woke up and yawned. He walked around the house and found that no one was there. He sat down and had a simple meal alone. It was almost noon before he went downstairs and drove back to the company. As soon as I returned to the office, an assistant from the president's office next door knocked on the door and came in, saying, "Mr. Lu, something happened in the overseas branch. Mr. Wei is on the phone with Mr. Kevin in the office." What? Lu Feng was shocked. At this time, something happened in the overseas market he had just stepped out of. Wasn't this giving him eye drops? Lu Feng hurried towards Wei Yandan's office and opened the door. Wei Yandan and Zhu Lidong were all the core executives. The phone was on speakerphone and Kevin's voice came through. "How is the situation now?" Lu Feng asked. "Mr. Lu is here. This morning, our stores in Bangkok were either smashed, burned, or threatened. They have all been paralyzed," Wei Yandan said with a gloomy expression. "Have you called the police?" "The police have been called. The police have arrested a few gangsters. There is no result yet, but the nature is very bad. Such concentrated attacks, chosen at the same time, are definitely premeditated." Kevin said that we have not offended anyone. Zhu Lidong was a little worried and asked on the phone, "Are you sure you didn't offend anyone? If we talk about business competition, it will definitely offend people. After all, we have squeezed other people's markets, but there is no sign. We have not had any friction with any company so far, and this is what happened suddenly." Kevin was confused. "Properly deal with it, temporarily close all stores, and let the injured clerks go to the hospital when they need to go. Lu Feng thought about it. If you want to develop locally, you have to win the hearts and minds of some people. I hope that after this incident, we can operate more smoothly locally. Okay, I understand, Mr. Lu, Kevin replied. Thailand has a small population, but its consumer market is stronger than the domestic one. In 1994, the GDP reached 160 billion US, and the per capita GDP was more than 3,000 US. In contrast, the domestic per capita GDP in 1994 was 1,200 US, more than double. Such a huge market, with many international companies and high per capita consumption potential, has become a cake that major international companies are competing for. Lu Feng was surprised that a company like GFN Electronics rushed in and was not hit in the head. Now that he encountered these things, it was expected. But Lu Feng didn't expect that local social security was so poor. Kevin analyzed the situation there for a long time and could only target a few companies at present because GFN's products were in direct competition with them and they were also local companies. He is good at using such rough means to get things done. I think it may have something to do with the financing. A big tree attracts the wind, otherwise it would be impossible to cause thunder in the clear sky. Zhu Lidong frowned and analyzed. I'm afraid this matter will never end. If the other party is really determined to mess with us, the store behind will. Once you recover, you will continue to have troubles. Yes, I also think it has something to do with financing. We have been talking about too many topics internationally recently. Wei Yandan sighed and said, there are many famous people. Lu Feng sat on the sofa next to him and lit a cigarette. It's definitely not that easy to go abroad. Now that we have raised so much money, someone must be causing trouble. We must go all out to investigate this matter. The place we just went to has no connections. Wei Yandan seemed a bit powerless. A powerful dragon could not defeat a local snake. If anyone in the country dared to do this, Lu Feng could put him in jail. Let's eat first, and we'll learn more about this at the meeting in the afternoon. The storefront of GFN Electronics was extensively smashed, which caused a certain amount of panic. The state came forward to demand that the local safety of the company be ensured as soon as possible. But shouting is just shouting. I don't know if it will be useful. In the afternoon, the local police station announced that more than 40 people had been arrested. The specific reasons for this incident were not announced to the public. Moreover, Kevin learned through the relationship with the owner of the cooperative company that people felt that so many people were arrested. This matter can be over. Local cooperative business owners also said they were helpless. In the evening, Kevin received a phone call. Hello, who are you? I'm Kevin, the overseas executive president of GFN Electronics. Kevin said to the phone very officially. Don't worry about who I am, I'll tell you one thing. Get out of Thailand as soon as possible, otherwise what happened today will continue to happen, understand? The other end of the phone spoke English with a Thai flavor. Hello, sir, I don't know where I have offended you. If there is anything we have done that is not thoughtful, I hope you can point it out and we will correct it. We respect the customs and habits of each country and like to receive all the benefits. Human respect, Kevin said solemnly. No need, just a request, get out. You understand? Okay. But there must be a reason, otherwise I won't be able to report to my boss. Is it our competitor, or is it for other reasons? If you can tell me, I would be very grateful, Kevin said sincerely. Can't you humming understand? Ah. Believe it or not, I will chop you into 8 pieces. Don't do this to me. Now take your company and your people and go back immediately, you know. The other party shouted angrily. When we encounter a problem, we want to find the root of the problem and solve it. If we have anything to say, we can say anything, Kevin asked tirelessly. You, wait for death, the other party cursed and hung up the phone. Kevin had encountered too many such things in his career. If the other party didn't say anything, it meant that he was assigned by someone else and it was not convenient for him to betray his employer. When he called, he couldn't say anything except verbal threats. Kevin immediately reported his suspicions. If there was really a security threat, he needed to leave. The other party must have spent a lot of money to get rid of us. If it really costs someone's life, it's not easy in some countries. Kevin said on the phone, I want to go back first. In this case, if you leave, what will the vice presidents below think? People must be panicked for a while. In this case, overseas assets cannot be guaranteed. I can understand your panic, but now when the time comes, you can't retreat. If you take a step back, it's all over. Lu Feng pondered for a moment and said, you don't have to come back, I'll go. Mr. Lu, it's not safe for us here now. I know. Needless to say, I will take good safety measures. Prepare tomorrow. I will arrive the day after tomorrow. That's it, Lu Feng said firmly. Zhu Lidong and Wei Yandan were also a little panicked. No one knew what was going on abroad. Now they were in the dark. They were obviously here for GFN Electronics. As the boss, Lu Feng might have an accident if he went there. Why don't you withdraw first? Can't come back. Lu Feng knew that if the Thai market was withdrawn, it would be all over. Let's not talk about what Sun Hongkai thinks, but what does Schroders think? Didn't you say that your overseas market expansion was fierce, but you returned the money before it was even received? Isn't that fun? If you want to go, I think safety must be the most important thing if you want to find a good bodyguard. This matter is too big, Wei Yandan said worriedly. Okay, find some at home, and go find another batch over there. Lu Feng knew what he was going to face. Something might really happen, but this trip was imminent and he had to take action. There was no way out and there was absolutely no way to retreat. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 887. Latest website. Kevin was not in the country, so Lu Feng summoned the overseas department for a meeting to sort out and analyze the current situation. News continued to come from Bangkok. Although the specific person behind the scenes was not yet clear, he could already guess a few companies, including Motorola. There was no evidence, but Lu Feng's intuition told him that it was Motorola who did it, and Watanabe had the absolute motive to do these things. After an afternoon meeting to analyze all possible situations, the company also found a security company and hired a team of 7 bodyguards to follow Lu Feng this time. In the evening, Lu Feng made a special call to Li Lin and asked her to tell the investors about the incident. He said it was an accident and would not stop GFN Electronics from going global. He explained it clearly to them and they could figure it out on their own. Not sure what to think. After hanging up the phone, he called Jenkin and explained the matter again. According to the previous shareholding agreement, Sun Hongkai could acquire another 5% stake at the original valuation price. I talked about this matter and arranged for someone to sign the contract today. After finishing the work at hand, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. Lu Feng took a simple bite in the cafeteria and sighed in his heart. He couldn't even rest for a few days. After a day of compilation and estimation, the direct loss this time was worth 5 million yuan, which was a blow to the head for Jia Feng, who had just stepped out of the door. Before going to bed, Lu Feng called Zhang Xiaoyan. Hello? Who is it? Zhang Xiaoyan asked after picking up the phone. It's me. Did Mr. Wang harass you? Lu Feng asked. Do you think he dares? You almost scared him out of his wits. You called me at noon today and apologized profusely. Zhang Xiaoyan spoke with a smile on her face. That's good. I originally thought I would have 10 days and a half to spend with you and Duo, but something suddenly happened abroad and I have to go there, Lu Feng said helplessly. Go, I don't need you to accompany me, Duo is going to school. Besides, isn't that the only thing you're doing to accompany me? Isn't that what you're talking about on the phone? Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Actually, I also want to ask, do you still like me? Lu Feng asked. Zhang Xiaoyan's eyes turned red when she heard this. She was silent for a while, took a deep breath and said, what do you like or dislike? It's so disgusting. You know how to do this. Just do your job. Don't worry, I'm fine, still waiting. Then you can give me a message, Lu Feng asked. Oh, there are vegetables cooking in the pot. That's it? Pay more attention to your safety. Zhang Xiaoyan dodged a little and said, I'm dead. Beep beep beep. Lu Feng listened to the blind voice on the phone and sighed. She still refused to reveal her feelings. At this moment, Lu Feng couldn't think about it anymore. He looked at the time and called Kevin to ask about the matter. Latest progress. The next day, the matter was officially determined, dozens of people were arrested, and it was completely over. The news Kevin got from the boss of the local partner was that there were powerful people behind this matter, and ordinary people could not shake it at all. Let Kevin knock out his teeth and swallow it in his stomach. Threatening phone calls came to Kevin one after another, and some suspicious-looking people began to appear downstairs where he lived. Kevin did not dare to go out. When I communicated with Lu Feng on the phone at night, I wanted to go back again. Mr. Lu, I feel that the current situation is not very good. With all my years of international experience, it is best to go back now. The same will happen when I return to the headquarters. We can hold meetings over the phone and deploy some things, Kevin said with a bit of anxiety. What time is it now? You are not allowed to retreat, Lu Feng said solemnly. I will be there tomorrow morning. Even if they want to take action, they will kill me first. What are you afraid of? Kevin cursed in his mind. What are you afraid of? Of course I'm afraid that I won't survive tonight. The current situation was definitely the worst he had ever encountered. I'll be there tomorrow morning. If you don't arrive, I'll leave. Kevin gave the final bottom line. Okay, we must be there. You call the local security company and find another group of people locally to ensure safety. Vehicles and other things are also ready, Lu Feng ordered. Kevin agreed. This time it was really a dragon's pool and a tiger's den, and he would have to hang here. Kevin is just a professional manager. When he encounters irresistible resistance, his first thought is to protect his own interests. Lu Feng is different. He is an entrepreneur. If he takes the step back, everything will be over. Someone once vividly compared the two. They are both hunters. When the shotgun in their hands is out of bullets, professional managers will turn around and leave, but entrepreneurs are different. They will pull out the knife from their waists and go up to fight for their lives. This night was destined to be inevitable. Jiafeng Electronics incident has attracted widespread international attention. At the cusp of the storm, too many people are laughing at it. Some people claimed that they originally thought that the Schroders Group's money was wasted, but unexpectedly it was not even wasted, and it just sank to the bottom. There are also rumors that Schroder Group is prepared to pay liquidated damages and that the matter of taking a stake has become dark. The most urgent thing before Lu Feng now is how to regain the new shareholders' confidence in him, which requires showing strength. The next day, at 7:30 in the morning, Lu Feng presided over the morning meeting of the group's senior management. The meeting lasted until after 8 o'clock. I don't know how long it will take this time. The country has already entered the third quarter, and the market competition will become more intense. We must be prepared for battle. Lu Feng may not be able to take care of these things, so he needs to remind Wei Yandan, Zhu Lidong, and others that now is the time for them to show their ability to control the overall situation. The car was already waiting downstairs, and 8 bodyguards stood guard beside the car, looking very imposing. Half an hour later, Lu Feng went downstairs. This time, several middle-level managers from the overseas marketing department were walking with him. The car door had opened, and Lu Feng stepped into the car. After arriving at the airport, he boarded the plane through the first-class aisle. Lu Feng took a deep breath, leaned back, and closed his eyes to rest. As the plane took off, no one knew what he would face on this trip. Bangkok once became the largest city in Southeast Asia in the 1990s, with a permanent population of more than 5 million. It is a large city integrating heavy industry, light industry, chemical industry, and entertainment industry. Especially the entertainment industry, which is extremely developed, is a world-renowned entertainment city. Whether it is for performances or fun, it is an excellent choice. Especially the she-male culture, I don't know how many people are attracted to it. At the same time, on a global scale, this country is not as stable as it seems. The internal structure is mixed. It still retains the historical legacy of the King of Thailand, but on the surface it has a voting system. I believe those who pay attention to some news and facts know clearly who is ultimately in control. Gunman. The development of the entertainment industry and the booming economy will definitely breed the gathering of idle people in society, forming another invisible society. It was a 3-hour flight from Shenzhen to Bangkok. August had just entered. The door of the plane opened, and a wave of heat hit the ground. Lu Feng got off the plane with the support of a group of bodyguards. The car outside the airport was already waiting, and it was also surrounded by a dozen people. Unlike the domestic bodyguards, these people all had guns. Got in the car and went straight to the branch office building. The scenery along the way is full of exotic customs. There are coconut trees everywhere on the roadside, with rough trunks and a cluster of greenery on top. There are stalls along the street and all kinds of beauties wearing cool clothes, forming another scenery. Lu Feng from his previous life often came here to play, so he was no stranger to it. The office of GFN Electronics branch is rented in an office building. 7 or 8 cars were parked at the door of the building, and Kevin was already waiting. When he saw Lu Feng get out of the car, he was very excited. He was happier than seeing his biological father at the moment. He stepped forward and took Lu Feng's hand and said, "Mr. Lu, you are here." The local public security bureau said that this is the end of the matter. Lu Feng asked him. Tongpala, the CEO of the company I cooperate with, told me that this is the only way, and many of the gangsters caught have been released now, Kevin said helplessly. Go upstairs first. The formation at the door is indeed a bit big. There are 15 domestic and local bodyguards in total, standing here scattered and eye-catching. There was a thin, dark man sitting behind the banana tree not far away. He held a camera in his hand and focused on Lu Feng. He took a few photos and looked through them to make sure they were good. He stood up and left. He walked down a street and called a public phone at a small store. Hey! What a scumbag! I saw the boss of GFN Electronics, it should be him. I took a few photos, the man grinned at the phone, showing a row of black teeth, and said, "How much is it worth, money?" 1,000 baht, deliver it to me within half an hour. The slightly sleepy room smelled of alcohol. The house looked like a wooden house. The ashtray on the coffee table was full of cigarette butts. Sitting on the sofa was a man in his 40s with short hair. The most conspicuous thing on his face was the scar looks a bit ferocious. After hanging up the phone, Mu Jia shouted outside the house, "Go to He Lao-san and get the photo." A tall man walked in from the door and asked, "Do I need to bring money?" Mu Jia took out a bullet from his pocket, threw it on the coffee table and said, "Give this to him." The man remained silent, stepped forward, took the bullet, and turned away. "Sell me 1,000 baht for a photo, hum." Mu Jia snorted coldly, picked up the phone and called again. After the call was connected, Dejiji said, "Hey, when are you going to pay me? I tell you, Big Fish is here. The boss of GFN Electronics has just arrived. These people are worth a lot of money, right? Lu Feng is here, The other person on the phone was a little surprised. The other party obviously didn't expect that Lu Feng actually dared to come at this time. How about it? Does this person do it? If so, how about 20 million? I'll help you do it, Muse said nonchalantly while smoking, as if it was a common occurrence for him. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 888. Latest website. Kill him. Aren't you afraid of your own life? The other end of the phone sneered twice. Mu Jia said indifferently, I'm just a businessman. If he has any power, he will die if he dies. You said it quite easily. Jiafeng Electronics, a private enterprise in China, is currently ranked number 1. It's not easy for such a single company to emerge. Do you think it will be so easy after you die in a foreign country? The other end of the phone said gloomily, don't talk about China, Sun Hongkai and Schroeder's will not let you go. When Mu Jia heard that there were so many people supporting Lu Feng, he laughed and said, that's okay, I was just joking. Killing him will indeed lead to serious consequences, but forcing him to retreat is still necessary. Let's arrange something for him. Then how do you calculate this money? Reduce the number you just mentioned by half. Make a deal. Mu Jia hung up the phone and looked quite excited. The matter was not big and the money was plenty. This was definitely the best job Mu Jia had ever taken over. Mu Jia stood up and walked out of the room. Outside was a wooden table. 7 or 8 people were sitting around the table playing cards, shouting, and making it quite lively. Stop for a moment. When the strong man finishes his work, tell him to keep the body and give the boss a big gift. The scumbag had already thought about using the photographer to frame him. After giving the instructions, Mu Jia went back to the house and called the director of the local public security bureau to give instructions. Everything was ready. In the branch meeting room, Kevin called over Tongpala, the CEO of his partner. Tongpala is in his 50s, has a typical local appearance, short hair, wears a plaid short sleeve, and is slightly fat. Mr. Liu, I really can't do anything about this matter. It's important to make money, but you also have to take care of your life. Tongpala smoked a cigarette and said worriedly, I am also a well-known figure in the local area, but no matter what, whoever you find, just wave your hands at this matter. And this matter is not over yet. Those people even called me threateningly and vowed not to give up until they drive us away. Kevin sighed and said, the key is the attitude of the local municipal government. They don't care at all. We just it has not made much contribution to the local area and has no right to speak. Moreover, Bangkok's economic development is very rapid now, and all the capital is focused on this place, no less than ours. Lu Feng smoked cigarettes one after another. The situation here is different from that in China. In China, companies are looking for development. Here is like a nouveau riche. There is no shortage of companies and the economy has developed. Now they are looking for people. His identity and status were completely reversed, so naturally he had no way to turn to him. According to Tongpala and Kevin, there is no solution to this matter. The store will be smashed if it continues to open after cleaning up. The local police station is also partial to the other side. There is no other option except leaving. There was a brief silence in the conference room. Lu Feng put out his cigarette butt in the ashtray and breathed a long sigh of relief. If these local people don't support us, then we should find a way to make them support us. Since we are developing locally, you have to adapt to the local rules. They decide the rules of the game. If I can't play, it's because I'm not good at it. But if I have to leave before I start playing, this is definitely not okay. Mr. Liu, you have no clue at all, Kevin said with worry written all over his face. If you don't have a clue, Search slowly. Don't retreat at any time. Lu Feng glanced at the time and saw that it was almost noon. He said, eat first, and chat while eating. The meal was arranged in the hotel. While eating, Lu Feng got to know Thongpala a little bit. His personal assets were about $5 million. In an environment full of foreign capital in Bangkok, he was really just a small figure. In the past 10 years or so, the economy here has developed and the environment has begun to change. Getting money and getting cards has become a one-stop process, and some are even blatant cooperation. I don't have enough money, and my interpersonal relationships are not in place, so my life is really average. Thongpala told the truth. Qian will open the way, Lu Feng asked while eating his meal. If Qian will open the way, that will be easy. It's not a one-time deal. You need to have local industry and long-term cooperation, Thongpala said. Is there anyone else who is powerful locally? Lu Feng asked. Monks, the royal family, and the military, Thongpala said to Lu Feng. These three parties are sorted in order. If you want to do business, if you can get on the line with the three parties, it will be safe. Faith, ruler, gun, Lu Feng muttered secretly. Mr. Lu, our cooperation is cooperation. Of course I will help with whatever I can, but there is really nothing I can do this time. If you can solve this matter perfectly, then the cooperation will continue. If not, we will not meet again. Thongpala seemed to have already thought of everything when he arrived. Don't worry about this. Nothing will happen to you. However, we are new here and don't know anyone. I would like to trouble you to introduce some important people to you, Lu Feng said to Thongpala. If it's just a recommendation, that would be simple. Thongpala said happily, yes, I know a director of Banglut district and I can recommend him to you. I don't know whether he can help you or not. Thank you very much. What are your hobbies? Lu Feng asked. He is quite lustful, Thongpala said with an embarrassed look. That's understandable. When we meet, we can stay at some entertainment venue. Lu Feng looked at Kevin and said. No, he's a lecher. Thongpala could only tell the truth. Ah. Oh, a strange place must not be restricted by gender, so let's find a place for male sex. Lu Feng didn't take it to heart. As long as things were done, he asked, then when can we meet? I'll call and ask. Thongpala stood up and walked to the phone to call. After getting through, he said, Director Zailun? I'm Thongpala. Is it you? What's going on? The voice on the other end of the phone was quite rich and powerful. Do you know Jiafeng Electronics? It's the company whose store was destroyed a few days ago. Their boss is here and wants to meet you. When do you think you have time? Thongpala's voice was very condescending. Road. I don't have time, I don't want to meet, the other party simply refused. Thongpala knew that Lu Feng was still bothering him because he couldn't find any relationship. At this critical moment, the most important thing was to cut off the relationship with them as soon as possible. Listen to me, this boss is very young. Thongpala turned back to look at Lu Feng and smiled. Lu Feng saw him looking at him and smiled at him. He looks around 26, almost 1.8 meters tall, fair and clean, and very good looking. Thongpala turned around and whispered, and he's very rich. Stop talking, Zailun shouted, bring him to see me and tell him that I am born for justice and I can't bear to see sand in my eyes. Okay. Where will we meet? It's at the tea house next to the police station. Good. After hanging up the phone, Thongpala said to Lu Feng with a happy face, Director Zailun agreed. He usually doesn't meet people in person, but because he is so predestined with Mr. Lu, he agreed. Destined, Kevin was very depressed. When he first came here, he wanted to meet Zailun through Thongpala, but he didn't meet her at all. How could it be so easy to get to Lu Feng? He couldn't help but said, where did this fate come from? Don't worry about where it comes from. It's settled. I have to talk to Mr. Lu. Tongpala stepped forward and said, Mr. Lu, Director Kalun is a person who I know well and may be more enthusiastic. Please do not mind that. Ah, Lu Feng was stunned for a moment, and then said, it's okay, it's nice to be warm. When will we meet? Is there a suitable place to receive us? I'll arrange this, he said hurriedly. No, no, Director Kalun has already arranged for the tea house next to the police station. We will go there now, Tongpala said. Kevin was confused. Is there such a big gap between him and Lu Feng? He was so unpopular, but he was so popular. Kevin couldn't even think of what he was missing. The three of them went downstairs, got into the car surrounded by bodyguards, and headed straight to the district police station. The owner of Mingpan Tea House is a Chinese, and there are an unusually large number of Chinese here. This tea house has been open for a few years, and the massage parlor next to it is also opened by the owner. Several cars parked at the door, and a bunch of bodyguards came down. The boss was surprised when he saw it. Is this a big shot coming? He hurriedly welcomed us out and said, everyone is welcome to visit us. The shop will be full of glory. Does the boss speak Chinese? That's great. We have an appointment with Director Zalun, Lu Feng said to the shop owner. Oh, please come inside. The boss hurriedly made an invitation. The store etiquette was already in place, and he said Sawadika in unison. 7 or 8 bodyguards stayed downstairs, and the remaining 7 or 8 were at the door of the private room. Lu Feng entered the private room and arranged to sit down. A beautiful girl wearing a cheongsam walked in, holding a teapot with a spout in her hand, smiling slightly. A bow. The tea ceremony will come later. Let's wait for Director Zalun to come and join us, Lu Feng ordered. Director Zalun has arrived downstairs, the boss said. Tongpala stood up and waited at the door. Lu Feng also followed. A man came up from the stairs. He was about 1.8 meters tall and quite bulky. He looked like a wall standing in the corridor. He is in his 40s, wearing a police uniform and looking very imposing. Hello, Tongpala stepped forward and extended his hand. The two shook hands, Zilun's eyes fixed on Lu Feng, and he looked carefully from head to toe. Lu Feng had never seen anything before, but at this moment, he was staring at him and his hair stood on end. This is President Lu of GFN Group, Tongpala introduced to Lu Feng. This is Director Zalun. Before the introduction was finished, Zalun opened his hands with a smile on his face and said, Sawadika. He held Lu Feng in his arms and put one hand on his back, still a little restless. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 889. Latest website. Lu Feng felt that he was wrapped up by a strong force and could not struggle at all. It took him a while to let go. Lu Feng looked at Zilun with a surprised expression. Hello. Kevin had never seen the scene before. He was stunned for a moment and realized what was going on in an instant. He couldn't help laughing deep down in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it in this situation. Lu Feng was not a fool. He saw something was wrong with Zalun and hurriedly took a step back. Let's go in and have tea. After Lu Feng said this, he quietly winked at Kevin. Kevin smiled slightly and entered. Zalun sat down and said to Lu Feng, sit here. I'll just sit here. Lu Feng was one seat away from him. I'm sitting here. Kevin took the lead and sat next to Kalun. Zalun glanced at Kevin, looking slightly unhappy, but he did not have an attack. He looked at Lu Feng and asked in English, Mr. Lu, when did you come? I just arrived today, and I feel very honored to see you. Lu Feng tried his best to appear decent, not a casual man, and said, I met Director Zalun through Mr. Tongpala today. First of all, I have some local connections, and secondly, I heard about Director Zalun's wisdom and came here because of his reputation. I saw Mr. Lu today and he was very handsome. If anything happens in the future, just speak up and I will help you if I can. It is my duty to eliminate violence and keep good people safe, Jalun said very proudly. Kevin could see that things that were difficult to handle before were much easier to handle now, so he said, "We, Mr. Liu, always prefer muscular men." "Really?" Jalun was overjoyed and asked, leaning his head. He Lu Feng raised his hand and patted Kevin on the back, and said, "Men, who doesn't want to practice bigger? Let's not talk about this. What happened a few days ago against GFN Electronics? Vicious incident, do you know some of the reasons? There are 2 of your stores in my jurisdiction. At that time, we arrested more than a dozen people, all of whom were gangsters. They paid 500 baht each for doing this. These people didn't know how many floors they were separated from each other. I can't find the person behind it," Zalun sighed, and he seemed helpless about this matter. "I still want to thank you for your contribution to regional security. Only when it is safe can our business be stable," Lu Feng thanked you. "You're welcome, as you should." The 2 sides sat together for an afternoon, and Lu Feng also gained some basic understanding of this gang of gangsters. Most of the idle people in society stayed together, and there were many idle people. Zalun's words hinted that there might be a big force behind this matter. Otherwise, it would have been so big that there was no investigation, which would have been obvious. Lu Feng also knew in his heart that the only person who could suppress this matter here was someone holding the barrel of a gun. In the evening, the 2 parties had dinner together. The relationship between Zilun and Lu Feng was so good that they felt like they would go through fire and water for him in the next second. At 8 o'clock in the evening, both parties drank a lot of wine and walked out of the hotel. Zalun took Lu Feng's hand and said slightly drunkenly, "I really fell in love with you at first sight. This is my business card. If you need help, can you help me? I will try my best to solve it for you if I can, but as for this matter, I can't solve it at the moment." "Thank you very much." Lu Feng held the business card, quietly pulled his hand back, and said, "Today is too disturbing. Let's go back first and you should go to bed early." "Okay. Come here often for tea," Zilun said reluctantly. "Sure." Lu Feng waved his hand and got into the car, and the convoy drove away. Zilun stood there until the convoy disappeared, and then he sighed, feeling a little lonely. Lu Feng lowered the window, and the night wind blew in his face. Kevin, who was sitting next to him, was almost laughing. "Mr. Liu, you have to take action, a bad old man like me, ha 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 ha, it can't be done," Kevin laughed and coughed. "Is it funny?" Lu Feng turned his head and said coldly. "It's not funny." Kevin quickly took a deep breath, controlled his smile, and thought for a moment before saying, "We have never provoked anyone from the military. His hands and eyes are too powerful, right?" Lu Feng silently smoked a cigarette and said, "Go check those companies and see which companies' executives here have anything to do with the military." Kevin seemed to have found an idea and solemnly said, "Okay, I'll check it out." Outside the hotel door, 2 black jeeps were parked. The cars were turned off, but the occasional flashing red dots of cigarette butts inside the cars showed that there were people inside. The motorcade slowly approached the hotel entrance. The bodyguards in the car began to pay attention to the surrounding situation. On the intercom, one of the captains whispered, "Pay attention to the 2 jeeps parked next to them. There are people in the cars." "All right, I got it." Mr. Liu's car parked directly in front of the hotel and got off, and security measures were taken. Such a long motorcade could not stop at the door. The bodyguard's car stopped in advance, and more than a dozen people rushed towards the door. Lu Feng's car was surrounded by a crowd of people as soon as it stopped at the door of the hotel. "What's wrong?" Lu Feng got out of the car and felt something was wrong. "You go in first." When Lu Feng heard this, he hurried inside and Kevin followed closely. Several people in the car could only look away and sigh when they saw such a strict deployment around Lu Feng. Someone asked in the darkness, "What should we do now? There are so many bodyguards, there is no opening, let's start from inside the hotel. Eat first." Back to the hotel, we had a brief meeting, and then everyone went back to rest. At 1 o'clock in the evening, except for the entertainment area, it was basically silent. 2 jeeps once again parked in front of the hotel. The car door opened, and 6 or 7 people got out. 2 of them carried the thin black man who was photographed in the afternoon. He was pale and lifeless. He had a coat draped on his back, and they strode toward the hotel. "Hello, we are a partner of GFN Group. We would like to know which room Mr. Liu is in," asked the tall man in the lead. "Sorry, this is customer privacy, you can." Before the receptionist finished speaking, the man took out a pistol, looked at her with a smile, and said, "Where?" "14th floor, VIP room no 8. "Okay, if you want to call the police, that's up to you." The tall man turned around and left arrogantly. The front desk knows that if someone dares to say this, they are not afraid of you calling the police, so they can only behave and pretend that nothing happened. The 6 of them went up to the 14th floor, searched for it, stood at the door of Lu Feng's room, and rang the doorbell. In his sleep, Lu Feng vaguely heard the doorbell ringing. He sat up a little irritably and said, "Who is it?" No one answered. Lu Feng wondered if there was some emergency. He got out of bed and walked to the door. As soon as he opened the door, a man rushed towards him and restrained him. "What are you doing?" Lu Feng suddenly woke up and raised his voice more than 10 times. There were 2 bodyguards living opposite the door. The tall man saw Lu Feng yelling, but he couldn't understand it. He murmured for a long time, grabbed Lu Feng's hand, put a gun into his hand, looked at Lu Feng with a very playful look, and took it out of his pocket. Several bullet casings were thrown on the ground. The crisp voice made Lu Feng calm down instantly. He understood everything and gave up struggling. The 2 people next to him dropped the photographer on the ground. The bodyguard's door opposite opened, and 2 disheveled bodyguards rushed out. "What's going on, Mr. Liu?" "What do you think is going on?" Lu Feng looked at these 2 people with joy. The tall man had already taken out his cell phone and started calling the police. Kevin also heard the sound and ran out to check. The corridor was full of people for a while. The tall guys didn't panic when they saw so many people, and just chattered a lot. He said Mr. Liu shot his friend, the local bodyguard translated. The entire corridor became quiet, and everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Lu Feng glanced at Kevin and said, "What are you doing standing still? Call the police." Kevin was stunned for a moment and didn't react. He came to his senses the next second and hurriedly called Zalun. 10 minutes later, 3 police cars rushed over, and a dozen or so armed men rushed into the hotel, went upstairs and handcuffed Lu Feng without saying a word. "Now we charge you with first-degree murder, come with us," the leading policeman said to Lu Feng, and the 2 men came up and carried him away. A group of bodyguards stood on the spot, unable to do anything. Lu Feng was carried away and went downstairs. When Zilun heard that Lu Feng had been arrested, he immediately became anxious. Even if there was a murder case, it would still be within his own jurisdiction. Wouldn't it be the turn of other places to arrest people across regions? 4 police cars stopped at the door. As soon as Zalun and others got out of the car, they saw Lu Feng walking out of the elevator wearing pajamas and being handcuffed. "Wait a moment." Zalun and his men stood directly in front of the group of people and said, "Who asked you to arrest them?" Seeing that Zalun was of a higher rank than him, the leader said in a less harsh tone, "We received the call and there was a shooting. We came to deal with it. My jurisdiction, you guys are going to handle it. Since it's a shooting case, where's the forensics? Where's the ambulance? Where's the on-site investigation?" Zalun stared at them and asked, "Arrest people when you come up? What are you doing?" The other party was unable to answer the question. He was silent for a while and said, "I hope you will get out of the way. I am just following the rules. We have taken over this case." When the tall man saw Zalun blocking him, he stood aside and frowned. He couldn't help but said, "You'd better get out of the way, otherwise you won't be able to eat and walk around in circles." "Really? How can I walk around quietly?" Zalun pulled out the gun from his waist and shouted, "Try moving again." As soon as he grabbed it, the people under his hands began to be on guard. Several tall men immediately put their hands into their arms. The splendid hotel lobby was now tense. "Director Zalun, I hope you can get out of the way," said the leading police officer. "If I get out of the way today, I will close the door to justice." Zalun stared at the 6 tall people and already felt something was wrong. Latest website.